Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
The big political takeaway from US presidential elections is not who won it. It's not even whether Trump won it or lost it. We know that Trump is the most interesting personality in this fray. That the deserving candidate is well on his way to winning is a fact. We can't also question that. But going ahead, in terms of the impact on global democratic politics, even our politics, and definitely on America's politics, the important thing is that how could a man like Donald Trump, a leader like Donald Trump, still get almost half of all the vote cast in America? That is 48% or thereabouts. That's nearly 7 crores or 70 million of the votes cast, which means 70 million adult Americans voted for Trump, and voted for Trump in spite of what? Trump is somebody that a lot of the popular media, the commentariat, the globally respected names and institutions, the media institutions, think tanks, they all told us was a buffoon, a maniac, greedy, power-hungry, corrupt, a sexual predator, tax dodger, and someone who arguably weakened the country globally and nearly ceded its preeminence as the sole superpower in the world, in a unipolar world, to a new rising power, namely China. And yet, he got so many votes. So how could this happen? How could he make this race this tight? How could he have so many more voters come out? So the largest number of people voted for him as a Republican candidate in America, and that is in spite of the pandemic. See, the reason Biden is doing so well with mail-in voters is that his voters are afraid to come out because of coronavirus. Trump's voters, his recklessness has rubbed off on them. So it looks like they are not even scared of that. So they have come out and voted in large numbers. Now, all these experts and all these pollsters, psephologists in America had told us that there was a blue wave building up that was going to sweep Trump away, not just into the dustbin of history, but into the gutter of American political history. And they were saying it in spite of the fact that they were punch drunk after having been shown up by Trump in 2016. Now they said the gap is so much that even if we err as much as we did in 2016 in Trump versus Hillary, Biden would still win quite easily. As we know that Trump was able to drag this race, he was able to win Florida, which was easily given to Biden, and he was able to make the race very exciting in Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina. So what is it that Trump did that pollsters could not catch, that the pundits could not catch? And what is the implication now of 7 crore Americans, that is half of Americans, almost half of Americans voting for a phenomenon called Trump? Because Trump is not like the Republican Party. He's not like a Republican Party leader. He's not like a Republican president. He's Trump. He's a phenomenon in his own right. He's sui generis, as we say. So there'll be many people in America who will say, what's wrong with us Americans? This is a question we'll hear often. What's wrong with us Americans that 70 million of us voted for this nutcase? It is also a political point that will endure, I think, much more than this result. So imagine this election campaign as if the coronavirus pandemic had not happened. Or imagine it like Narendra Modi and his councils may have done when they went to Texas for the Howdy event. Now, at the Howdy event, when Modi walked Trump around that place, that stadium, holding up his arm and saying, "Ab ki baar, Trump Sarkar," the calculations were pre-virus. Nobody knew that a virus was in the works in Wuhan. Nobody, possibly, maybe if at all, Xi Jinping, but he wasn't telling us. Nobody knew a virus was coming in. And that was not a bad presumption to make at that point. The virus came in, and even though America's handling of the virus has been the worst in the entire world, the worst by a long distance, other people have tried to compete with America. Jair Bolsonaro in Brazil, in particular, but they are nowhere near how bad America has been, because you also have to see the American wealth, the size, the depth of its medical system, how modern its medical system is, how aware its population is, and yet America has suffered such a huge damage. In fact, if at all, Donald Trump has gone the other extreme of trivializing the pandemic, of laughing at the virus, calling it another flu, of pushing unproven prescription medicines at his White House press conferences. That too in the American system, which is so careful and, if I may use that word, also hypochondriac in many ways. But he's done all that. He's even caught the virus. He's trivialized the mask. He's politicized the mask. He's walked around without a mask as a statement of strength. Caught the virus. If you want to use one word for the way he has handled the pandemic, it can only be shambolic. And in the text version, I was very tempted to write it in all capitals, that word. The only reason I'm not doing it is I don't want the national interest to begin reading like Donald Trump's tweets. But in spite of that, so many people have come out to vote him. So what is the problem with America? In town after town, away from the metros are different, the town after town, village after village, in the red heartland of America, which is no different today from the Hindi heartland of India, because Hindi heartland of India also votes only one side. The red heartland in America also votes one side. People have come out and voted in the counties worst affected by coronavirus, with the largest number of deaths per thousand population from coronavirus. People have come and voted for Trump in overwhelming numbers. So what is the story behind this, and what does it mean going ahead? That's the point we are examining in today's national interest. So if you step away from America a little bit, you will see that this is a maturing phenomenon all over the democratic world. You see, you want to see how this works. This works if you have a demagogue who's smart enough, who has the skill of magnifying a large, dominant majority's grievances, whether genuine, misplaced, part misplaced, whatever, misgivings. A large, dominant majority's grievances into a persecution complex, which actually becomes a minority complex. Now, this is an expression we've used in India in the past in national interest, that how the Hindus of India have acquired a minority complex, although we are 80% in India. And that is something that L.K. Advani tried to build on. He built on it to some extent, but Narendra Modi has been able to build on very successfully. That's why you find the crucial stage in every election, something like this comes up. In UP elections of 2017, it was Shamshan versus Kabristan. Jharkhand elections last year, you can tell from the dresses people are wearing, who's creating these anti-CAA riots. And now in Bihar, you have, we are being opposed by people who even object to you chanting Bharat Mata Ki Jai. What kind of people object to chanting Bharat Mata Ki Jai? So this is the same art, and this is something that has also worked very successfully in India's Hindi heartland and the two western states, that is Maharashtra and Gujarat. What's happening in America under Trump is a phenomenon essentially not very different from this. Again, like Trump, even in India, Narendra Modi waded into a conservative, old, well-established party with many senior leaders, many former this minister, former that minister, claimant to this, claimant to that, waded in, took over and completely changed the party. So the difference is that Modi still did it pretty young by Indian standards, by the standards of Indian politics. Trump, on the other hand, did it much later. Modi had been a politician for a long time already and had held office for 3 terms in Gujarat as chief minister. Trump had held no office before this, and he walks into this grand old party of America and completely changes its ideology. So what does he change? He now builds a new ideology, a new philosophy, which has nothing to do, which is completely in negation of the core values of the Republican Party. What are the core values? Free trade, encourage immigration. Immigration is good for America. Globalization, asserting global power, even global policing where needed, fighting America's battles far away from its shores, not withdrawing from the rest of the world, and not even leading from behind. Obama was accused of leading from behind, as they said, but in this case, Trump showed that his America, or in his view, America doesn't need to lead anything except itself and look within. So all these were completely contrary to all Republican values except one, which is low taxes. Look at Modi, on the other hand. His first 6 years, he's now beginning to change because he's seen, I think he's shaken up by the free economy being in free fall now. But first 6 years of his very successful politics, he also went away from many core principles of the BJP, which is free enterprise, minimum government, privatization, creation of wealth. He went away from all that and built a new kind of welfare politics around welfare economics, which meant reaching out to the poor and delivering to them a little bit very efficiently, while at the same time being seen to be hurting the rich with this 44% tax and high fuel taxes, etc., etc. Now, that is where the comparison stands. In fact, of the few short speeches that Trump made during the days of counting, one that is the standout speech for me, or the standout line for me, is when at the White House he's giving a call to American working classes. Hey, come on, America's working classes, you are with us. Working classes are with us, Republicans. When did you imagine hearing that? So what these leaders have been able to do is to take the working classes away from their old fortresses, that is the old left socialist fortresses, away to a political force of the right. How did that happen? I mean, you want to apply that to India? It's been done even more successfully than in America. In America, a few more African Americans voted for Trump this time than before, but predominantly they voted against him. But in India now, the Muslims stay aloof, but a lot more Dalits vote for the BJP, a lot more poor vote for the BJP, a lot more other backward castes vote for the BJP than vote for other parties who have taken their vote for granted in the past. So in the process, Trump has created a new ideology of Trumpism. So even if he loses, he will not fade away like other past presidents, because traditionally presidents in America just fade away, but there is nothing traditional about Trump. He will not fade away. His shadow will loom over the Republican Party. He will not let it change. Trumpism will loom over the Republican Party. A lot of people in his party think, look, we should have been wiped out in this election, but it is Trumpism which gave us a chance, which put up such a fight, and because of whom so many of us have won our congressional seats and our Senate seats. So maybe Trumpism works, and frankly, his family will also not go away, his children in particular, because they will be there, they have ambitions as well. So the finest minds in American commentariat failed to figure out this impact of Trump's, that his impact is so deep, just as so many of us failed to figure out Narendra Modi's impact. So Trumpism was missed by a lot of the commentariat as much as Moditva was missed. You can judge it, but you cannot deny it. You can say it's a bad thing, it's a terrible thing, but it's a reality. 48% of your people are voting for it. So that is what's happened. Now, the reason we get this wrong is that maybe some of us are still very old-fashioned and are analytical thinking or political instincts. We still think if people are better off, they will vote, they will continue voting for you. And we remember that we were told by a famous American president in the run-up to the election campaign, it's the economy, stupid. Now could that have changed a little bit? Can there be something beyond the economy? Because if it was the economy stupid, then people of India were not so stupid as to have given Narendra Modi an even higher majority in 2019 when the economy had already been struggling for 3 years and joblessness was at its peak already. So what is that other thing? So one thing is, and this is a theory, that you can make people better off. But can you also make people feel better off without making them better off? To do that, you have to appeal to more emotional sides of people's minds and hearts. So you have to then push the strings of emotion, and that's where identity comes in, and that's where culture comes in, and that's where religion comes in. That is what many of these leaders have now understood. That's what Trump worked on, that's what Modi's worked on, and that is the reason now you see even a centrist like Macron is talking the way he's talking. So this new politics is built around identity, also some other elements, for example, political correctness, elitism, or what is now called as wokeness. So another standout line from this election campaign in America is CNN anchor Anderson Cooper's description of Donald Trump. That is after his deranged speech at the White House that election was being stolen away from him. He described him as an obese turtle lying belly up on the beach in the sun. Now this is very contemptuous. And many of Trump haters, which is a large number of people in America, that's also the other half, they will think that this is a very good description, that Trump actually deserves it. But it is something like this that the large Trump support base will see as elitism, and will see at the elite contempt for a working class leader. Trump is not working class, but that is how politics is built. Similarly, in India, when people make fun of Modi not being able to spell strength while delivering a speech or speaking in a discussion, getting that spelling wrong and reacting with a ha ha ha, this actually does not embarrass his base. His base actually becomes firmer in their belief that this is the elite that does not like their working class leader, so they rally even more behind their working class leader. So Trump, if anything, has been made fun of many more times, a million more times than Modi. Also, he's been made fun of in public, in publications, in writing, in speech, rather than whispers, which is the case mostly about Modi. And that is the reason, that's one of the major reasons why so many people, almost half of America, has still come out and voted for him, irrespective of his track record in governance.